Hi everyone, welcome back to TechHub.training. My name is Jacob, and today we're going to be going over the Power BI Construction Business Intelligence Challenge solution. So in this challenge, we are given a CSV export with a bunch of financial data for a construction company, and we're asked to create a KPI dashboard in Power BI. So to get started with this challenge, download the CSV and create a new Power BI document. So to get the CSV in, we're going to hit Get Data, Text/CSV. Here is our data. We'll pull it in. So this data has already been cleaned, so no need to bring it to Power Query Editor. We could just hit load. All right. So now checking on our data, we see it pulled in just how we wanted it, and we could get started. So the management of this company wants to see a couple different things. The first things we need to do are calculate their gross income, their operating income, and their net income. With those columns calculated, we can build the rest of our report. So to get started, we could create a new calculated column. So this one will be our gross income. To do that, we could just take our revenue and take out our cost of goods sold. Great, we have our gross income. We could just format that as currency. It'll just make the rest of our report look better later. While we're here, we could just format the rest of these as currency. Great, now we can move on to our operating income. Which will just be our gross income that we just calculated, minus our operating expenses. Sweet. Last one will be our net income. Which is just our operating income less our net other expenses. Format that one as currency. All right, with that, we have everything we need to move on to the dashboard side of this challenge. All right, so this challenge, it wants a line graph with a bunch of these columns we just calculated, as well as some margin info. So we can start with our line graph. Let's see what metrics it wants in the line graph. So we want to display our revenue, our COGS, our gross income, our operating income, and our net income over time. So we start with our x-axis. We'll just drag our date field over here. We can start putting these in. I want to see our COGS, gross income, net income, operating income, and revenue. Let's make sure those are the ones they wanted. They wanted revenue, COGS, gross income, operating income, and net income. All right. So that's it for our line graph. Because we dropped this whole date in here in the x-axis, we can drill down on this data right here. You can see it kind of broken out by month. Drill down even further, see it broken out by day. Probably just leave it as the month for now. In the next part of this challenge, we want to calculate a couple margins. We want to get our gross margin, our operating margin, and our net margin. So that'll just be our gross income divided by revenue, operating income divided by revenue, and net income divided by revenue. So to do that, we're going to create measures. So that's our gross margin. That's our operating margin. See, we have an error here. We're missing a closing parenthesis. We put it on the back. Now our net margin. Did the same thing again. Perfect. We can format all of these as currency, sorry, as percentages. We can put all of these in some cards. Great, now that we have our line graph done and all of our cards, we can add a slicer. So over here we can hit slicer, and we will just add the year into the slicer. And I don't really like this slider for the slicer, so we could go over here, change the slider to a tile. Cool. So now as we select the different years, we can see our metrics change. If we go down one level, we'll get a little more granular. That should be it for this challenge. Thank you guys for working on it. Please post your solutions and come back to check on more challenges here on TechHub.training. Thanks.